In 2019, I went on a trip to Hawaii for 7 days. It was sponsored by a company known as Michelin Tire. We spent 7 days together. These guys took me everywhere, and my wife in Hawaii. They took me to mountain climbing. They took me to waterfalls. They bought me shoes. I had a credit card that I could use. They helped us stay in this like 5-star suite. It was the most incredible trip I've ever taken in my entire life. And when I got home, I remember a few weeks after that, there was this push to want to get into using that kind of energy, that excitement around the brand to push a tire. But I remember thinking to myself that I didn't really enjoy the concept. I love the brand. I love Michelin as a whole. I run Michelin on a lot of my cars, but I don't run it because they sent me to a trip or to a hotel that was way more expensive than I could ever afford. I run them because I like the tire. Then I went out onto the internet a few years later and I found myself kind of getting into these situations more and more where these brands, they wanted to work with me. They wanted to do stuff. Even to this day, you know, you'll see me shooting content every once in a while that's an ad or a sponsored post, and they send me out to go do things and participate in activities, and I love that. But there is always a small piece in the back of my head that sometimes feels like I want to be more upfront and transparent with you on that, and I don't think a lot of automotive journalists do that. I think there's a lot of people out in this space that are absolutely trash when it comes to automotive journalism, and it's because of the fact that a lot of times manufacturers and brands have the ability to put a lot of money in somebody's pocket like mine to just pay for my opinion so that you believe anything that I say. Now again, I'm gonna say this one more time because I do have a lot of brands that watch my content. I love Michelin and Continental and Driver and all these brands that are helping us go out to these trips, but I never wanna sacrifice the integrity for a paycheck because that's just not fair to you guys. And I wanna talk about two things in specific that bug me about automotive journalism right now. Number one is what we talked about in the lightning lap a couple weeks ago. And number two is this growing sort of like nose in the air feeling that I'm getting from other automotive journalists. I'm not even an automotive journalist, I'm just a YouTuber, but other automotive journalists out there in the space. So I'm AlexMartini with 2 underscores on Instagram, and today we're talking about automotive journalism. So this is March Martini Madness. We've been posting every day, Monday through Friday. It'd mean a lot if you liked and commented on this video, and then subscribe if you haven't yet. We're just really trying to get through March because we have some huge stuff releasing in April, and I'd really love your support on that. So for those that don't know, I've kind of used the lightning lap for a while now as some of the, like my biggest problem with automotive journalism. And what that is the lightning lap was a track test between 16 vehicles, 15 vehicles, and they compared them to an as tested price, which was really ridiculous because I think 12 out of the 16 or 11 out of the 16 cars in that test had dealer markups so high that it put them out of the very tiers that the test put them in terms of what was the best value of car you could buy. And I got a lot of people back saying, oh, well, that's not our fault, or oh, it's only been like that for a couple years. It's not gonna be like that forever. And my point wasn't that it was a short-term issue or a long-term issue. My problem was that you had a very prestigious company out there telling the masses, probably millions of people, that this is the best car to buy, which would lead them down the path of buying something that at the end of the day, I've said it again, but at the end of the day wasn't that price. It was $30,000 more. It almost felt misleading. And I go out there and I've seen this more and more and more, especially on YouTube with cars, new cars, used cars, whatever you want to talk about. People get new cars and they're the best cars. Every car that gets released, best car in the world. And it's only $26,000. And you're like, wow, that's a pretty decent deal, I think. And so you go and you start looking around and you call a couple dealerships, which you really don't want to do because dealerships just never leave you alone. And turns out the car is actually $52,000. That's not okay, in my opinion. And at the same point, I think there's a little bit of integrity that needs to be put on these automotive journalists that do review so many vehicles. That how is it possible for every single review of every single car that they talk about to be perfect, to be the best car ever? I saw it a lot with the Ford Bronco. This is not a car that this group is probably as familiar with, but everybody knows the Ford Bronco right now. It actually released very well. It's a pretty decent platform. I like it. But when it was released, it was disgusting. The amount of money Ford was paying these influencers to talk about the Ford Bronco doing things that it was 100% either not built to do or didn't do very well. But for some reason, that was okay. You saw it with the FTX scandal and all these people that were promoting promoting crypto. Now all of a sudden the whole thing fell apart, and now these influencers are getting sued. I'm not comparing buying a car to crypto, but I am saying the same thing exists out there for people like me that are talking about cars or parts or things like that. We have a due diligence to be sharing with you when or if somebody is telling us or somebody's giving us something to talk about product. Now, a lot of times, especially as we go into April and May, we are going to be talking more about product. And I want you guys to know that, not on this channel, but on the other channel that we plan to launch, that we'll always be super honest and transparent about that. Because I'll tell you what, I get anything for free. I'm already a happy man because I never want to pay full price for anything. But just because I get it for free doesn't mean I'm going to like it. The second part of this issue, outside of just the actual dealer thing, I would say, is the automotive journalist doing better. On Instagram right now and other social platforms, you have a tendency, or you almost have a requirement, to put the hashtag ad, you know, when you get paid for something, when you get paid for a promo, or they give you product and you need to say that you like it. Like, they'll pay you for that. But the moment that you have to pay for it, you usually put ad. And this has been working pretty well for most influencers. But where it doesn't work is the moment you get into more traditional automotive journalism, where you don't seem to have to do that. At least I don't see it consistently enough to know that it's regulated to any point or any degree. There are people that are doing it well, like Dustin Williams, who's going out there, got a new Type R. The video is sponsored by Honda. It has every other logo known to man blurred in that video, but he's telling you straight up, vehicle sponsored by Honda. You know exactly what you're getting into. So you already have that inclination of like, okay, Dustin is gonna maybe like this a little bit more. And he obviously loves Hondas, but you know that it at least has that in the background. Dustin, massive praise for saying it and doing it. And I love that we have that, but there are other people that will go out there, they'll write about how incredible a car is, and then they get done with it, and they jump in their Porsche 911 and they go home. Or they jump in their Ford F-150 and they go home. And they got paid $15,000 to write the piece, and they don't actually give a if their word stands up to anything that they said in the article, because the integrity isn't there anymore. It's washed into an abyss of millions of articles that are out there on the internet, and nobody cares anymore. So you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'd love to hear it. Of course, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being part of March Martini Madness. I'm Alex, AlexMartini with 2 underscores on Instagram. Please don't forget to comment your thoughts on this. I would like to hear your thoughts. So let me know. I'm Alex. We'll see you later. Adios. Goodbye.